Am I the a-hole for telling my brother I told you so after he found out his son isn't his? When I, 22 female, was in high school, I had a boyfriend and I found out this girl at our school was sleeping with him while we were together. I hated her so much, especially because she talked about me in so many of their messages, saying she likes sneaking around with him knowing that he has a girlfriend and constantly asking him if I think anything suspicious. Imagine my surprise when we graduate and she starts dating my brother. I couldn't believe his betrayal to date someone who did me dirty and didn't speak to him for a while. But we were able to reconcile, and I even developed a relationship with her after she got pregnant. When she did get pregnant, I had my suspicions if my brother was even the father, because she had a history of being a side chick and promiscuous. I didn't say anything at first until one of my guy friends tells me she's been hooking up with one of his cousins, overlapping when she started seeing my brother. He even sent proof. When I showed it to my brother, he told me I was a psycho liar who never liked her and is trying to get them to break up. I told him that it's true. I don't like her. But that doesn't change the fact that I had Tinder screenshots during the beginning of their relationship after they made it official, and she cheated. We got into a huge argument where I told him to get a paternity test since the timeline she slept with the other guy would be when she conceived. And she told him that he needs to cut me off because I'm being toxic during her pregnancy, and he did. He asked me to apologize to her so she could let us be cool again, so I did to appease him. Recently, it came out that back in late May, my brother and her split up, and she left the apartment for a few days. And when she came back, she took their son and told my brother it's over and proceeded to move into another man's house. They ended up getting back together and she moved back in. But come to find out, the other man, who is the suspected father, was the man she had ran away with and then moved in with temporarily, and that they filed a paternity test for him through the court and he's the father. Once it was established, she moved out again and took my nephew last week. The other man is now wanting my brother to relinquish rights so he can get on the birth certificate. My brother came over to the house and broke down sobbing and told us, since he hid everything. I guess her moving in with him again and establishing him as the father through the state was his breaking point. During this, he turned to me and says I should have warned him more and not let her isolate him. And I said I did, and he says I could have done more. I got upset and said it's his fault, since he knew she wasn't faithful and cut me off when I told him. And it's his fault. He forced me to be kind to her to have access to him or the baby. He ran out crying, and my mom says I'm a major a-hole and shouldn't have blamed him and kicked him while he's down after he tried to blame me. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Truth hurts, and you were only standing up for yourself. He cannot accept responsibility for his poor judgment and is looking to blame you for it. Just like he tried to blame you for bringing the truth to his attention while he was still with her. And shame on him for dating someone who was so awful to his sister. You don't tell someone who's on edge, I told you so. He came to them during a mental breakdown. Picking apart this rant isn't the time or place. They moved out a week ago. Poor guy probably hasn't registered a shock. Then he shouldn't have turned on to one person to try to help him. Sucks to suck. Not the a-hole. What a terrible brother. Your mother sucks too. If he's down, it's his own damn fault. He betrayed you, went no contact with you, and is now blaming you? Why the heck are you still in contact with him? I'd go no contact until he groveled with an apology. You could have lit yourself on fire while doing the Watusi, and he wouldn't have believed you. I cannot fathom sleeping with someone who wronged my sister, let alone how she did it by being the side chick. The visible from space sign that she has no loyalty to anyone was right there. And OP's brother still chose to let himself be fleeced. Not the a-hole. Your mother seems to have it nice and easy here. Delegating responsibility to you to do all the sense talking to your brother and blaming you when you don't give it a proper babying. A mother perhaps should put up with your brother's mercurial temperament, but you are not responsible for his feelings. Drop your mother's shaming like a bad habit. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he was an idiot to spring a surprise wedding on his girlfriend? To give my post context, I'll say that I was born and raised in the US. But I've lived in Australia since I was 19, and I am no longer a US citizen. I only have Australian citizenship. Before the pandemic, I used to travel back to St. Louis to visit my family at least once every other year, if not more. I haven't seen them in person since 2019, and I was planning to go visit soon now that the pandemic has calmed down. One of my brothers told me he was getting married and they were having the wedding in Cancun. He's my brother, so of course I was going to attend his wedding if I could. Most of my family was going to be there, so I would get to see them, and I would also get to finally meet my brother's fiancé. When we got to Cancun, I spent the first day seeing my family and catching up. My brother said his fiancé was doing last-minute preparations, and I would get to meet her tomorrow. I will also say that at this time, no one in my family was acting strange, and I had no idea what was coming. The next day, my brother brought his fiancée to lunch. I did get to meet her, sort of, and this is where everything went to hell. I found out she had no idea about the wedding. She thought this was a regular trip for just her and my brother. She didn't know my family or any of hers would be there too. My brother planned a surprise wedding. The kicker is that, although they talked about marriage, they were not even engaged. The wedding didn't end up happening and she was obviously upset. For her side, my brother had invited her mom and stepfather and her stepbrother. She was angry that not only did my brother spring the wedding on her, but that he didn't invite other people who are important to her, such as her dad and her best friend and others. My brother told her he didn't tell them because they would have wrecked the surprise, and warned her. There was a public fight and I think more behind closed doors. All I know is that she left the next day and there was no wedding, and the rest of the trip was really awkward. I told my brother he was an idiot to spring a whole wedding on his girlfriend without them even being engaged. Everyone in my family knew and went along with it. Maybe I have been away from my family for too long, but I think this was complete stupidity. Now my brother is mad at me for calling him an idiot and saying it was a stupid idea because he thought he was being romantic and thoughtful. He hasn't talked to me since the trip ended. Do you all think I'm the a-hole for what I said? Thanks. Not the a-hole. Your family went along with us, which was stupid on their part. Now he's mad at you for saying the truth? He needs to grow up and apologize to his girlfriend. Seriously, who does a surprise wedding? Even if you were engaged, a surprise wedding is an awful idea if it's not something both people planned. Not the a-hole. You never ever take the decision away from a partner as how that one singular day will proceed. I've been married for 28 years and I still remember significant portions of the day. There's no way a partner should be happy not having any choice in how the day proceeds. Calling him an idiot is tame compared to what he actually is. I think it's more than just surface level stuff, like decorations or whatever. It's like, hey, I'm going to pressure this person into a legal situation without caring about what they think about it. It's creepy AF. I don't even have to read this and I will agree with you. This surprise wedding trend is going to be the leading cause of divorce in America. Who in their right mind thinks this is a good idea? I have not seen one success story yet of a surprise wedding. It falls into a whole new realm of stupidity. I saw one of those true crime shows where the husband did a surprise wedding and all the friends and family thought it was so romantic. Shocker! The husband ended up being abusive and controlling, and he ended up unaliving the wife. That was the first time ever hearing someone doing it in real life. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay my brother to do odd jobs around my parents' new house that I paid for? This is a rather complicated situation and I am at my wit's end. I am in too deep personally and cannot decide which route is the correct route to take and stick to. My parents, 1773, have fallen on hard times in the last few years. They've never been well off, but they have lived comfortably and have always been frugal. They made a bad investment, which basically cost them everything, including a big farmhouse on a few acres of land where we all grew up. 2 brothers, 45 and 50, and me, female, 34. One brother, 45, lives in the same town as my parents. He was in a very serious accident when he was around 30 and had a massive frontal brain injury and was in coma for a few months. He has since recovered to the level of being a fully functioning member of society, now married with 3 kids. His wife works from home, and he is a handyman. He obviously doesn't have a set income as he gets paid for what he does when he gets a job. He relies heavily on money from my mom, as she feels sorry for him and his family. The problem starts here, because my parents don't have enough to help themselves, let alone my brother. A year ago, they received a final notice to leave their property, and had literally nowhere to go. They have no retirement fund. I spoke to my brother, 50, who lives out of the country, and we decided together that we would purchase a property for my parents and give them a monthly allowance to take care of their basic needs. When my brother, 45, came to hear of this, he suggested we buy another acre and build a house so he could get one too. This was not part of the plan, and we found a lovely small retirement home for my parents. When the time came to sign a contract and pay the mortgage, brother 50 backed out. We had obviously already discussed the purchase with my parents, and my husband and I decided to still go ahead with the purchase. We'll live out of the country, by the way, and stick to what we had agreed with my parents. They are, after all, the people who raised me and made me who I am today. We have had to cut costs a lot in our own house, but it is worth it to make sure my parents are okay. Fast forward, and my parents were settled in a new house. There are a lot of odd jobs that need doing. Curtains need to be put up, frames need to be put on the walls, garden needs to be cleaned, etc. Brother 45 is happy to come and help with all these odd jobs, only if he gets paid by the hour. Now I feel like he sees my husband and I as the gravy train and wants to hop on board as he knows we are funding this. I'm just telling the heavily condensed version here, but I feel like we are paying for everything, while the other 2 brothers happily watch and do nothing. So, am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay my brother to do these tasks around the house? Note that my husband and I would happily do it, but we're a 10-hour flight away. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. That sucks. That's stuff that kids do for their parents. It's one thing if it was specialized professional tasks, like plumbing, electrical, or even setting up complicated computer/TV/audio stuff. I get that they'd likely charge other people for doing those tasks, but charging mom and dad to hang your own family photos is low. I'm sorry. Thank you. Slowly wrapping my head around this situation. Appreciate your feedback. I hope your parents' house is not in your parents' name. Agreed, because you know your brother will somehow turn that into, I did everything in this house to make it habitable/comfortable/homey. I should inherit it for helping out so much. Not the a-hole. Suggestion? Don't mix family and business. If brother doesn't wish to offer help, then engage a professional you can trust and pay them. Exactly. OP, you can't force your brothers to contribute or be decent people, but you can sure as heck stop paying one of them for being an a-hole. I know you're far away, but since it's your hometown, I hope you have some connections you can use to find someone local who's capable of doing these pretty basic tasks. Like this could be a neighbor's teenager who wants to earn some cash over the summer. Those aren't specialized tasks. Not the a-hole, of course. Last story. Am I the a-hole for naming my baby the same name as a child from a previous marriage? I, 39 female, and husband have recently had our 5th baby together. I also have a daughter, 16 female, from my previous marriage. If you have read my previous AITA post, you will know that my daughter hates her younger siblings and has gone low contact with us since I announced this baby. She is currently living with her friend and only texts on rare occasion. Her name was a character of her and her dad's favorite TV show. My ex died when my daughter was 8. And although the name was my ex's choice, I have always thought it was a pretty name. When I had our latest daughter, I sent my elder daughter a text announcing it and included that they share the same first name. My husband's great aunt also has the same name, so I did not see it as a problem. I assumed she had no issue, considering she does not associate with the family at all anymore and would likely rarely see the baby. However, she was extremely angry and eventually told me to never talk to her again. I later received an angry message from her friend's father, who she is currently living with. I don't see them sharing a name as a problem, because not only will they not see each other often, but they also have different last names. So am I the a-hole? I would also like to add that the names have different spellings. And since most of you are calling me an a-hole, I would like to add some further information. My eldest daughter's name is Dana after Dana Scully, whereas my youngest is named Dana. We also been using the nickname Dave for the youngest, so no, not exactly the same. My husband's great aunt also shares this name, and it's not particularly unique. And they don't have the same middle name. As this was our 5th baby together, it was hard to find baby names, and this was one we could both agree on. Husband and eldest are not close, and especially since she's no longer living with us, they don't talk at all. I have to be clear when I say that I did not name my baby the same as my eldest to offend her in any way and did not expect such an argument. You're the a-hole. You're practically replacing your daughter by naming your new baby by the exact same name. And of course, she will see it like that, especially since you hardly talk. No wonder she hardly texts. The low contact was over a previous issue that I have posted about. And I think the fact we hardly talk should make it less of a problem. They barely associate. It's also not exact because different spelling. You gave up on her instead of getting her help when she said if you had more kids she'd off herself? That's not a massive red flag to you? You're the a-hole. Big time. I don't understand how you can be so blind to your eldest daughter's feelings. Or is this lack of empathy and caring on your part the main reason she left? From your post, it sounds like you've already written her off as a daughter. She perceives this as a move by you to replace her with a new child. It appears to her that you want to negate her entire existence. Her name is extra special to her because it's a link to her late father. You giving the name to another child is such a slap in the face to her. I don't blame her for being furious and hurt. It seems as though you don't love her at all. To say that I don't love my eldest is ridiculous. The name is spelled differently, and she also has other links to her father. Her middle name is her father's name, and she took his last name. Her first name is not extremely unique either. I have told her repeatedly that this is not an attempt to replace her at all, but I'm guessing she still doesn't recognize this. You are not here to hear how wrong you are, as evidenced by your argumentative attitude. You're here to have someone tell you you're right, and she's overreacting. I smell an arc. You're the a-hole, especially after reading your previous post about alienating your daughter. You sound incredibly selfish and unempathetic. Not only did you parentify your teenage daughter, but you drove her out of your home. And now you're essentially sending the message that she's been replaced. Who on earth gives two of their children the same name, different spelling or not? You need to get a reality check and actually start caring about the happiness of your children. Get some therapy or something. Your poor daughter.